balloons, bazookas, boobies, bosoms, boulders, cans, hooters, knockers, melons, honkers, jugs, rack, tatas, tits, torpedoes, guns, bust, doorknobs, coconuts, and our favorite one, the girls. Welcome to the All About Breastfeeding show, where your host, Lori, highlights mothers just like yourself and goes beyond the surface questions and digs deep so they share not only their joys and happiness in their daily breastfeeding life, but also their pain and struggles and how they worked through them.
Episode number 138. Welcome to All About Breastfeeding, the place where the girls hang out. I am your host, Lori Jill Eisenstadt, IBCLC, which stands for International Board Certified Lactation Consultant. I help moms with breastfeeding. Today's show is being brought to you by allaboutmothering.com, which is your learning pathway that takes you from pregnancy to postpartum. All About Mothering was developed out of a strong desire to remove one of the most common lines I hear postpartum moms say to me. On almost an everyday basis, and sometimes multiple times a day, I hear mothers say to me, with either frustration or anger or annoyance in their voice, or tears or sadness, they say to me, I really wish someone would have told me just how emotional and how hard new motherhood could be. I had no idea. Everybody always makes it sound like it's all sunshine and roses, and now that I'm in the thick of it and I talk to other moms, they're like, oh yeah, me too. Well, nobody ever said that to me. Mothers have all kinds of hardships, from conceiving a baby to carrying a baby during their pregnancy to keeping the pregnancy. Some moms have lots of hardships and health issues getting through the first trimesters, how to cope with a premature labor. These things aren't talked about. What about being on short or long-term bed rest, or having a premature baby, or the fourth trimester, which are those first 12 weeks home with a new baby? Everybody makes it sound like it's all happiness and bliss, and for certain women, it certainly is for some women. But for a lot of us, it's not. It can be an emotional roller coaster. We don't often talk about breastfeeding issues, the emotions that you have all the way up to the baby's first year. All About Mothering is a membership site which is going to take you on a fun and educational pathway that discusses all of these topics and so much more. It is new, it is my baby, and it actually is a baby, a work in progress. If you would like to be a founding member, get in on the ground floor at a great price, check out allaboutmothering.com for more information. All right, on today's show, with our FAQ series in Season 3, we will be talking about breastfeeding and increasing your milk production. Big question is, do you really need to increase your milk production? Let's get started. Have you heard of the word galactagogue? It is spelt Galactagogue. Pretty big word. Basically, it means a food or a drug that promotes the flow of a mother's milk. It can also be described as a substance that increases your milk supply. Why would a mother need to increase her supply? Don't all mothers make enough milk for their babies, you might ask? Can it be that some mothers do make enough, but they think they don't? Can it be that some mothers do make enough milk, but they want to make lots more? Can it be that some mothers don't make enough milk for their babies, they just truly don't? Before you consider taking a galactagogue, you should first find out the answer to each of these questions. Let's break this up and let's start with the moms who do make enough milk, but don't think they do. How can this be? Wouldn't a mother know if she was not making enough milk? It seems like she would. Before I became a breastfeeding mother, I could never really understand how a mother would not know this. It does not take long after having a baby to have another one of those aha moments, as in, aha, now I understand how some mothers might not know this answer. The reality is we are all not created equal. If you are walking around with very full and heavy breasts, which soften up once your baby has had a good feeding, you are a mom who might not quite understand how the next mom could never know if she's making enough. I mean, doesn't she feel how heavy her breasts are? Isn't she busting out of her bra? Does she not feel that tingling sensation with letdown? Can't she see and hear her baby gulping away? Well, actually, for some moms, the answer is no. After all these years of doing this work as an IBCLC, and after weighing many thousands of babies before and after feedings, I continue to be amazed. And sometimes it's not so much amazed at this point, but I guess the word that I would use is delighted when I see a baby come to what feels like a breast that doesn't feel so heavy, doesn't really look real full, and mom is questioning her supply. Our baby latches on and leisurely drinks without me hearing swallowing, unless we're real quiet. And then we weigh the baby after only 15 minutes of feeding, just one side, and can see that this baby quietly and efficiently drank 3 ounces, and her breast feels the same afterwards as it does before. For older babies past 3 months or so, this would really not be so unusual. But for babies in the first or so month of life, this is not as common. But again, it does happen that moms, her breasts really don't feel full, but she's still holding a lot of milk. For this particular mom, even though she sees her baby filling out, she's noticing the diapers are getting tight, the outfits are getting tight, and there's lots of output. If it's your first baby, it would not be unusual to question your supply, purely because you don't feel full like you hear other moms talk about, and you really can't hear your baby gulping, and you don't feel that letdown that you hear a lot of moms talk about. You combine this with what you think is a first-time mom. You're thinking your baby's feeding frequency, like 8 or 9 times a day, and others telling you that your baby is feeding all your time. Well, one can almost understand why you wonder if your supply is enough. Remember, the breast, a lovely breast, is an invisible container that your baby is drinking from, so you cannot measure what is going into your baby from feeding to feeding, unless you are using a similar professional scale like I do. Oh, and what really puts the nail in the coffin is when you pump, you hardly get anything. Well, what you get from the pump is somewhat subjective. Now we have laid down the common scenario for a mom who is making enough milk for her baby, but thinks she is not. I am going to put on my IBCLC hat and walk us through all the little pieces that I just mentioned. Let's start with full breasts or heavy breasts. While it's more common to feel full and heavy before feeding in the early days of breastfeeding, just because you don't doesn't mean that you don't have enough milk for your baby. All this means is that your body is different than the next mom's. What about the letdown or milk release? This is a sensation that moms typically feel when their milk begins to flow, right before their baby comes to the breast and or once your baby is feeding. The common sensations described are tingling, little flutters, light spasms, accompanied with feelings of calmness, relaxation, peacefulness, and drowsiness. I would say that I work with as many moms who feel the letdown as there are an equal amount of moms who just do not feel the sensation in your breast tissue at all. The mom who is letting down and not feeling it, but is experiencing normal newborn breastfeeding behavior and is exclusively breastfeeding and watching her baby gain weight appropriately, definitely is letting down. She's just not feeling it. Now, this is not to be confused with a mom that is truly not letting down or has a lot of milk but having difficulty letting down. This is also not to be confused with a mom who is letting down and experiences very negative sensations such as nausea, itching, headaches, strong negative emotions. To someone that this never happened to, you just don't understand it, but some mothers have this reaction to their milk letting down. Let's talk about hearing your baby gulp down the milk. This can be a tough one for some moms, and I totally understand why you might think that you're not making enough milk. I do read in a lot of books that one of the criteria for a baby that is feeding well and getting enough is that you hear them swallowing and gulping. Well, some babies, we do hear all that gulping, and other babies are taking in a good amount of milk in a reasonable time. However, they just quietly go about their business, and while they are definitely transferring enough milk, you can only hear it if the room is quiet or you put your ear closely to the breast. To help moms gain confidence in this specific area, I review with them all the signs of a good latch and how to observe babies sucking and swallowing and how to look at that behavior rather than the fact that they can't hear their baby swallowing. Then I like to point out that signs of a poor latch, if they're pain with breastfeeding, if the milk is leaking out of the baby's mouth, the dimpling of their baby's cheeks, their baby's constantly breaking the latch, all these are signs of a poor latch, which usually translates to poor milk transfer. So if a mom can't hear her baby, there are other signs that she can use to help her gain confidence that her baby is transferring a normal amount of milk in a reasonable time. Let's go to pumping volume. This is a fun topic I love to educate moms about. First things first, all pumps are not created equal, meaning perhaps you are not using a pump that is doing a good enough job. The reality is that there are a lot of crummy pumps on the market. Perhaps you borrowed a pump and the motor is just not real effective anymore. Perhaps you're using an excellent pump, but you're not using it correctly. Let's explore these issues a little more. Let's say you're using an excellent pump, but it does not work well for you. Well, perhaps this pump works well for your best friend, but it does not work for you. So consider the fact that you have a pump that's been given 5 stars, and yet you don't let down to this pump. As women, just as we respond differently to different relaxation techniques, therapies, medication, birth control, we also respond differently to breast pumps. Perhaps you have a great pump and you can let down to it. However, there is user error. You are not following the instructions correctly. I have seen all sorts of cockamamie things going on when watching moms pump. Maybe you're not using the parts correctly. You're using the wrong size flanges. There's a crack in the parts or a hole in the tubing. How are you supposed to know this? The other thing I see sometimes is you're taking parts from one pump from a different manufacturer and using it on your pump. You're like jury rigging some of the parts, like taking tubing from one pump or cutting off the tips and then putting them on a different pump. I can't help myself sometimes. I ask a mom, why you cut the tips off? And you say, well, because it didn't fit right into this hole or this piece in my pump. And I say, that's exactly right. It doesn't fit well, meaning it does not work with your pump. It does not have a good seal. Air is getting into the tubing. You don't get good suction, and it can throw everything off. Ladies, what I want to say in this area, pumps are not one of those things that you want to try and save money on. How about the time and the timing of pumping? When moms are new to this pumping thing, we don't know what we don't know. When I find out that a mom pumped right after her baby's good feeding and hardly got anything and is upset by that, I need to explain to her that she's actually doing a great job and that her baby is doing a great job and her baby transferred out a bulk of what she had to offer and there was very little left over. That's okay, as long as your baby got enough. That's fairly normal. Well, what about the time you spend on the pump? Again, here we just don't know what we don't know. You put the pump on for 5 minutes, you barely get some drops, and out of frustration, you're like, I'm not getting anything, and you just shut the darn thing off. The time spent on pump should be at least 2 minutes for lots of you to just begin getting going with the flowing and get that letdown happening. For some moms, it takes longer, and you just get going after 5 minutes. You need to leave the pump on for at least 15 to 20 minutes in order for you to decide that you're barely getting anything. While I'm not suggesting you do this, a better judge of milk volume would be if you were to pump closer to 3 hours after your baby's last feeding. With a good pump that you do let down to and that you do keep on for 15 to 30 minutes both sides, you'll probably pump a good volume of milk, at least as much as your baby was to be taking from a bottle. Now, mothers who do make enough milk, but they want more, they want to make more milk, I would first explore the reasons you do want to make more and how much more you want to make. Some moms do this for donation. If you are naturally making more than you need for your baby and you want to donate your milk, the milk banks and other moms really appreciate this. However, when I brought this up to a few other professionals, and I brought it up with Julie, she did an interview on the New York Milk Bank, she said they actually don't want moms taking medication or herbs to increase their supply, as they likely cannot accept the milk in these circumstances. They also don't want moms to purposely be pushing their bodies to do something they weren't doing on their own, or spending time away purposely from their own baby to purposely make more milk. They'd rather you not. What about building up a freezer stash? It's normal for moms, particularly working moms who are separated from your baby, to want to have a full supply put away. To be a few days or a week or so ahead of your baby is a nice luxury, and this is probably not going to be too harmful to you or your baby. Once you start making many ounces a day, more than your baby needs, this might put you at risk for losing the convenience of breastfeeding, in that you always find yourself needing to pump several times a day, and then you're wondering where the convenience of breastfeeding is. It also has the potential to put you at risk for clogged milk ducts, particularly if you miss a pumping here or there. Your breasts become overly full and the milk has nowhere to flow, and you get all backed up. Sometimes you get so hard and such big lumps, it literally causes your breast to be in a lot of pain. Chronic clogged ducts can be a risk factor for mastitis, which is a breast infection. Chronic clogged ducts also put you at a risk factor for lowered supply, as your body keeps having to recover from constant clogged ducts and infections. So I'm not saying to not build up a freezer stash. All I'm saying is that if you find yourself getting chronic clogged milk ducts and you are pumping a whole lot, that might be something you might want to take a closer look at. What about your baby's feeding behavior? Lots of extra pumping equals lots of extra milk in the breast. If your supply is so large and the letdown is so forceful, well, this can make for a very difficult and unpleasant experience for your baby. This can sometimes cause breastfeeding difficulty for your baby, who begins to have a problem dealing with the possible quick and fast and furious milk flow that you've created, causing them to come on and off the breast, and milk is spraying all over the place. It's a very messy feeding. Then you have your babies coughing and choking on the fast flow, spitting up large volumes. They then have excessive gas taken in because they keep coming off and on the breast, choking and coughing, and frequently during the feeding. And you know what? The worst case scenario is they start to reject the breast, because each time they come to the breast, it's like they're drowning in your supply. Picture one of those very large gallon jugs of water. Now picture yourself laying flat on your couch with your belly button and eyes looking up at the ceiling. Now, have someone take that full jug of water and place it vertically over your mouth, and just feel that fast flow of water rushing into your mouth like water out of a fire hose. Think about how you will respond. If you have access to your hands, you'll be pushing that jug of water out of your way while turning your head frantically from side to side, and your legs will probably be flailing too. What if you're a baby, though, and you're all swaddled up, and you can't move your arms and legs freely? Think about how that would feel. You're jerking your head from side to side, trying to get away, trying to breathe. If feeding starts to become consistently like this, I want you to reconsider all of the extra pumping that you're doing, because your baby will respond by all of this, and they might respond by rejecting the breast, which we definitely do not want that to happen. My regular listeners will know what is coming up next. I often say that I refrain from using the words always and never, because there are some moms and babies that will prove me wrong. I have met you in my practice. I am enamored about how well you and your baby do under certain circumstances. So I'm here to say, not every mother and every baby responds the same way. Incredibly enough, some babies do an amazing job and cope with this very fast and furious flow really well, and they figured out how to manage it quite nicely and have a comfortable feeding. So I would never say never to building up a huge excess milk supply. I just did want to warn you that this is a possibility, and if you see it heading down that road, just back off from the pumping. Now we get to the moms who truly do not make enough milk for their babies. Not being in the breastfeeding world, or being a mom who has breastfed 5 babies and never had a problem with supply, I can see how you might not believe this actually can be a problem for moms. However, when you work intimately with thousands of moms over a very long period of time, you will learn, as I have, that there are some medical conditions and some unknown reasons why some moms just cannot make any milk. They make drops of milk, a quarter or half of their baby's supply. Try as they might with everything that they do, they just cannot make enough milk to meet their baby's needs. Next week, I am going to wear my IBCLC hat again and give a sort of case review on 2 moms who suffered from low supply. We will talk about their case history, anonymously of course. We will then talk about the various steps they took and galactagogues they used to help increase their supply. So we have covered a few of the situations about moms and their milk supply, and next week we will get to moms who truly do not make enough milk. See you then. Bye-bye. Have you heard that Phoenix, Arizona is blessed with an amazing birthing center? Baby Moon Inn Birth Center is the best option for families who want access to midwifery care in and out of a hospital setting. You can experience birth in a comfortable home-like setting where natural birth is the focus. Laboring in water, being able to walk outside during labor, and enjoy the beautiful garden. This is what birth can be like for you. There is so much more to learn about Baby Moon. The staff would love to have the opportunity to meet you and would like to extend an invitation for you to attend a free Choices in Childbirth class and a tour of the birth center. All you need to do is call 602-314-7755. That's 602-314-7755 and ask for the tour dates. You can also go to allaboutbreastfeeding.biz/podcast, and on the right-hand side of the page, you will see a link that will bring you to the calendar, and you can sign up for the tour yourself. When you come in for the tour, make sure that you tell them you found out about it from the All About Breastfeeding podcast, and you will be given a very lovely free gift.